Good morning, everyone. Today is the 25th of May, Tuesday morning. You know, the Apostle Paul would have made a great philosophy teacher, would he not? Because what the Apostle Paul presented would make you stop and think. In the 17th chapter of Acts, the 28th verse, the Apostle Paul says, "For in him we live and move and have our being, as certain also of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring." I never had any philosophy teacher teach that to me in the university. Okay? Well, Paul went to Athens, and it says, his spirit was stirred in him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. Therefore he disputed in the synagogue with the Jews and with the devout persons, and in the market daily with them that met with him. Then certain philosophers of the Epicureans and of the Stoics encountered him, and some said, "What will this babbler say?" Others, he seemed to be setter forth of strange gods, because he preached unto them Jesus and the resurrection. And they took him and brought him unto Areopagus, saying, "May we know what this new doctrine whereof thou speakest is? For thou bringest certain strange things to our ears. We would know therefore what these things mean." For all the Athenians and strangers which were there spent their time in nothing else but either to tell or to hear some new thing. Have you ever met someone like that? They were always wanting to hear some new thing. Okay. Then Paul stood in the midst of Mars Hill and said, "Ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious." You know, I can say that that is a true statement among many of the professors that I experienced at the university. I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious. "For I passed by and beheld your devotions. I found an altar with this inscription, To the unknown God, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship, him declare I unto you." That must have gotten their attention, right? I never heard a philosophy teacher say this: "God that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands, neither is worshipped with man's hands, as though he needed anything, seeing he giveth to all life and breath and all things, and hath made of one blood all nations and men for to dwell on the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed and the bounds of their habitation." Wow. That must have gotten their attention. "He hath made one of one blood, all in Adam, all nations of men to dwell on all the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed and the bounds of their habitation." Paul was a philosophy teacher teaching the sovereign God. What a blessing that would be if one of the philosophy teachers in the university got up and taught that today. That they should seek the Lord, if haply they might feel after him and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. "For in him we live and move and have our being, as certain also of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring. For as much then as we are the offspring of God, we ought to be not to think that the God is likened to gold or silver or stone graven by art and man's devices. And at the time of this ignorance God winked at, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. Because he hath appointed a day in the which he will judge the world in righteousness by that man whom he hath ordained, wherewith he hath given assurance unto all men, and that he hath raised him from the dead. And when they had heard of the resurrection of the dead, some mocked, and others said, We will hear thee again of this matter. So Paul departed from among them. He wasn't welcomed among them very long, was he? Well, this chapter is a proclamation. Acts 17 is a proclamation of Paul's doctrine. Okay. And one of the most significant verses in that whole chapter is the verse that says, He hath made of one blood all nations of men for to dwell on all the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed and the bounds of their habitation. Well, may the good Lord be with you today in a special way. Is my prayer. God bless.